What up, everyone? How is it going? This is Nathaniel Rufflejants, and yes, I made it home from E3 today, and I want to talk about a game, a specific game that I don't feel like is getting a lot of attention coming out of E3, and it's almost understandable why, because it's made by a smaller studio, by Gung Ho, but it's a game that we need to spend a lot more time paying attention to, and I'm going to hopefully spend the rest of this video convincing you why that is the case. So, of course, we are talking about a game, Ninjala, and yes, this does mark our first true impression video, hands-on impressions. We spent a lot of time playing Ninjala. It was the last game on the last day of E3 we played. We spent probably 2 hours in total playing Ninjala. That's how much fun we were having. We kept just going through that demo line like crazy until I finally won a t-shirt. That was really when we ended it, is after I won a t-shirt. But that's not really what I want to talk about here. First off, a lot of you guys might not even know what the heck Ninjala is. Here, watch this. So basically, Ninjala is that, but a heck of a lot more fun. So there is a story to Ninjala, and but the story is not really that relevant. We watched a whole ninja show thing that kind of explained some of the story about these 3 clans fighting over this sacred object, and basically all 8 of the characters you can play in Ninjala are members of these clans or whatever. They're ninjas themselves, but they're kids. I don't know. It's all kind of crazy. Like, it almost like the game itself takes its story so seriously that it's almost hilarious. You know, it's one of those, we take it too seriously for what it really is. But obviously, the only reason Ninjala has really stood out among Nintendo fans is, 1, it's Switch exclusive, and 2, the characters kind of remind people of Splatoon. But here's my takeaway. This game is releasing early next year, and all I can think of after playing it is that once it comes out, I don't know that I'm ever going to touch Splatoon 2 again. And that's saying a lot, considering the Octo DLC just came out, right? Like, we just got one of the most, arguably the best expansions ever for a Nintendo game. But as amazing as Splatoon 2 is, Ninjala is really, in my mind, at least so far, based on what we were able to play, just as good, at least in terms of multiplayer. Not sure on single-player modes yet or any of that stuff. They only had the multiplayer there to play, and we were only able to play 1v1v1v1, so 4 players, although it does have, up to 8 players all battling it out. And the basic premise here is that you have these 8 characters. It does have online play, and you guys are all put into a level, a scenario, a situation. The one we were able to play was in the city with a bridge that you can climb up the bridge and go upside down and do crazy stuff. And the premise is it's kind of like an all-out battle. So, like in Splatoon, you splat people. It's not really called splatting in this, but it feels a lot like splatting. And the goal of the game is to rack up as many points as you can. And then there's 2 bonus objectives. At least there might be other bonus objectives in the future, but in the mode we were able to play, there were 2 bonus objectives. One of them was killing the bots. So these random, AI-generated CPU, like, floating robot heads would randomly appear wherever, sometimes on the bridge upside down, sometimes on the ground, sometimes off in the corner, and whoever killed the most of those would end up with 1,000 bonus points at the end of the match. And then there was, whoever got the most nippins. And for those who are wondering what a nippin is, it's kind of like killing someone with your souped-up special in Splatoon 2. So as an example, when you get the thrust up in the air and you're shooting people down in Splatoon 2, or whatever special you happen to be using, if you get someone with a one-shot kill, that would be like a nippin. Now, in this game, they don't have specials like that. What they have is bats. So you blow bubble gum. Yes, bubble gum into whatever size bubble you want, and then you hit the L button to turn it into a bat. And the bigger the bubble, the bigger the bat. And the bigger the bat, the more powerful the bat, but also the slower the bat moves. So if you just want to swing wildly all the time, you want a really tiny bat. You'll do less damage, but you'll swing more often. And obviously when you hit people, it interrupts them, so there's some advantages to that. It's obviously easier to get nip-ins with a bigger bat. And you do that by holding down Y, powering up that bat, and releasing it, kind of like in Smash Bros. You know, when you get that Captain Falcon punch in. That's what it feels like, because you just crush them, and they're instantly dead. It's amazing. Obviously, you respawn. It's a game with unlimited lives and stuff like that. So it's very, very entertaining in that way. And the bubble gum is a very interesting aspect in and of itself, because you could blow the bubble gum into these massive balls and press X and shoot them at people. And it sticks them to the ground and does little bits of damage. And then when they're stuck to the ground, as they're shaking their left stick, wiggling it back and forth to break out, that's usually when you're going to get your home run hits in. That's when you're going to get to go up, charge it, and hopefully hit them just as they break out of the gum. Now, there is a dodge button as well, and that is very, very interesting skill-wise, because you can avoid the home run hits if you time it just right. Like if you're just spamming the button, you might be actually in between a button press when you need to hit it, or in between an animation on the button press between you need to hit it to avoid that home run hit. So there's going to be a lot of high skill involved in dodging coming out of bubblegum, but it's very awesome. And then like when you're upside down on the bridge, you can blow your bubble up, really big, and then jump off the bridge and slowly float back to the ground, which is really, really cool, because it just adds that extra layer of strategy. And there's also like these little boxes all around you can collect. You get 5 points for each little box. My suggestion is don't really have, unless you have a bonus objective that's about who collected the most of those for an extra 1,000. I don't really feel like there's any point to be chasing those. I mean, if you're so far away from the action, you want to go upside down on the bridge and collect a bunch and go to the other side in this map, then fine, that's all right. And if you're up on the bridge fighting, some robot heads, you might as well collect them because they are points, and you want to get the most points. But again, those bonus points matter a lot, because it's 1,000 points. And what I was seeing in all my matches, the average was whoever was in the lead would end with about between 2,000 and 3,000 points, and then the second place person would always be at like 1,500 or 2,000, and if they got a bonus one, they might have just jumped ahead of you with one bonus thing. And obviously, we saw at times there was this one guy who never lost a match. He would get like 3,000 points a match, plus he'd get both bonuses to end with 5,000. It was crazy, and he never lost. He was beating all the devs. He was beating all the gamers. He absolutely loves the game. He probably played it. I think they told me he's had over 100 sessions with it during E3, like crazy. And they had a huge booth, by the way, for this. Like when you first walk in to the West Hall, like their booth is right there on the right when you walk in. Huge Ninjala booth with nobody knowing what this game is or why they should care. Now, movement-wise, it does take some getting used to. My first impression, the very first match I played, is the movement felt clunky. The camera felt messy, right? Because the camera doesn't stay behind you kind of like it does in Splatoon. When you're playing Splatoon 2, you can free move your camera, but that's you doing it. You can free move your camera in this as well, but the camera would always automatically stick behind you if you weren't free moving it. That's not what happens here, but there's a good reason for that. Because unlike in Splatoon 2, you will, like in Splatoon 2, you can hear people firing their weapon behind you, so you kind of know they're there, right? Or you can hear them, like you can hear them going through the ink, or you can hear the roller on the ground. Like if you're listening, especially with headphones, you can hear people coming at you behind you. In this game, it's not as easy because the bubblegum creates a lighter character, if that makes sense. So they're really light on their feet, so you don't know they're always coming. Plus, there's that music playing, and the music's so good. So it's very important to be able to not just manually rotate your camera, but to not necessarily have the camera stuck on you. And that took me a couple matches to adjust to. And once I adjusted to it, I don't want a stuck behind me camera. I just don't. It doesn't work for me. I'd rather manually move my camera or have the camera I'd rather just have full manual movement, if I'm being honest, because everyone who tried to keep the camera behind them would just get wrecked because you lose basically, line of sight on over half of the ways people can get you, from directly behind or directly behind a little bit on the sides. Like, no, you don't understand until you play this game how much you need that freedom of movement. You're going to be moving that camera all the time, especially in in 8-player all-out matches when there's all these players. Like, you're going to need to move that camera like crazy, and that's fine. You get really used to that adjustment fast. It's off-putting and jarring at first for people who are used to Splatoon 2 like me, but then after a little bit, it just becomes like second nature, because that's a huge difference in this game, is how movement works, how dodging works, how the attacks work. Like in Splatoon 2, everything's about obviously covering things with ink or about completing objectives, whereas the objective is kill the other players as many times as you possibly can. And you'll always know who's in first at all times because there'll be a crown over their head. It's very much a game about killing your opponents and or splatting them or nipping them, I think, whatever they call it. So and yeah, it is amazingly fun. And I could honestly talk about this game for hours because I spent hours playing it, because that's how badly I want to play this game right now. I talked to some game developers about it, and there's some things they wouldn't tell me. I tried asking about some single-player stuff. They didn't really want to go too deep into it. I guess I understand. The game is still in development, right? It's made by a smaller studio in Gung Ho. It's coming out exclusively on Nintendo Switch in spring of 2019. So we still have a ways to wait, 8, 9, 10 months. But this game might be better than Splatoon 2. I hesitate to say that because of how much I love Splatoon 2. So let me draw back a little bit. Maybe it's not better than Splatoon 2 because Splatoon 2 is made by a bigger company. It's going to be more polished, and I don't think Gung Ho's single player will ever match up to what Splatoon 2 did, especially with the Octo expansion. But what I will say is their multiplayer is just as fun. I don't know if they're going to have super competitive modes or various different modes. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this game by the time it comes out, but it is at least on par with the original Splatoon in terms of originality, in terms of trying something different, in terms of fun. And I think that's what matters. To me, this is the next Splatoon. And I think Nintendo needs to jump all over Gung Ho right now and try to make sure that this IP stays exclusive and they do extra promotions for it, and Nintendo helps finance a Ninjala 2, etc. Because I think this is the kind of franchise that could blow up on Switch. This can be right there along with ARMS and Smash and Mario Kart and Splatoon. Like, this is it's. I know some people think it basically is Splatoon 2, but it's not. Like, it is not Splatoon at all. The only reason you think that is maybe the art style, but that art style works so well on Switch. Why wouldn't they use it? I'm in love with this game. I mean, I got a giant bat. I got a giant T-shirt. I love it. It might be, if I was handing out awards, this would be the multiplayer award winner over Smash Bros. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. But yeah, the multiplayer award winner over Smash Bros. If I was handing out awards. That's how impressive Ninjala was. And that's not to say that Smash wasn't impressive, but we'll get into Smash, to a little bit later this upcoming week. All right, folks. Well, I'm Nathaniel Robojets from Nintendo Prime, and I hope I gave you some insight into Ninjala, kind of explained what it is. You guys saw some gameplay throughout this. We had some fun with this one, let me tell you. Look forward to our next impression video. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. I think we're going to be talking about Team Sonic Racing next. Don't worry, we'll get into Pokemon and all that stuff. I think Pokemon is actually after Team Sonic Racing. I'm going to try to get one of these impression videos out per day because I have to make some mental notes. I have to go back through the footage and remember some things and look up news. And what sucks about Ninjala is when you type Ninjala in Google, like, nothing comes up for it because no one's talking about it. When I just talked about it, can't wait to play it. All right, folks, like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one.